As the breath slowly exhaled, the hand resting on the armrest suddenly clenched tight. Blue veins bulged from left Qing's arm, spreading to his chest, neck and cheeks. His entire body tensed, eyebrows tightly knitted together, endless pain surging from the depths of his soul. His face, reclining in the chair, was contorted with agony. Large beads of sweat slid down his cheeks, gradually forming a damp patch on the old floor. Despite this, left Qing still clenched his teeth, refusing to make even the slightest sound, with only his rapid, heavy breathing echoing in the office. In the compartment behind the office, Jiang Zia, about to place a piece on the chessboard, suddenly paused with his fingertips suspended in midair. Jiang Zia let out a long sigh. He held the chess piece between his fingers and placed it steadily at a certain spot on the board. By now, the black and white pieces were intertwined across the board, each occupying half the territory. Time passed minute by minute. After about half an hour, the heavy breathing finally began to stabilize. Left Qing lay in the chair like a pile of mud, his face pale, his expression indescribably exhausted. He rested in the chair for several minutes, then shakily reached out to grasp the teacup at the corner of the desk. As he took a deep breath and brought the cup to his cracked lips, he discovered the cup was already dry, with only a few scattered tea leaves lying at the bottom. He sighed helplessly, about to stand up when a figure slowly approached his side. Jiang Zia carried a steaming teapot, took the cup from left Qing's hand, and poured hot water over the tea leaves at the bottom, releasing a refreshing fragrance. "Thank you," left Qing smiled bitterly. Jiang Zia handed the cup to left Qing, his expression somewhat complex. "Now that the heavenly gods have returned with us guarding the Great Xia, why do you torture yourself like this?" "It's different, Grandmaster." Left Qing took a small sip of tea and shook his head. "Having the Great Xia gods protect us is certainly a good thing, but if we place all our hopes on you, how are we humans any different from livestock in a pen? Commander Yifan used to say that human power can overcome heaven. Without his cultivation and efforts, the Great Xia wouldn't have so many human pinnacles today, nor would there be Zhou Ping. If because of the Great Xia god's return, even I as Commander-in-Chief start to become lazy and slack off, it would destroy the foundation that the Night Watchers have built over the past 100 years. Jiang Zia stroked his long beard, his gaze toward left Qing revealing admiration. "It's a pity that when we returned Yifan had already sacrificed himself. Otherwise, I would truly like to meet him." As the two were speaking, an urgent knock sounded at the door. Left Qing wiped the sweat from his face with a tissue, tidied his haggard appearance and then spoke. "Enter." The office door opened and a night watcher rushed in with a report. "Commander left, urgent report from the front line." Hearing the words "urgent from the front line," left Qing's expression changed. He quickly took the report and read it carefully. "The Temple of Gods." His pupils suddenly contracted. "The island. I wonder what tricks Brother Gun has up his sleeve for today's mind barrier training," said Chao Yuan as everyone emerged from the medicinal bath and got dressed, shrugging his shoulders. "Tricks? I find it quite interesting." Bailey Pang Pang raised his eyebrows. "It's interesting, yes, but we've been doing this for over half a month now." Chao Yuan's expression was somewhat strange. "Every day apart from getting beaten up we don't know what else we're doing. 1 or 2 days is fine, but after a long time it feels empty inside." "Actually, I feel the same way," and Qingyu nodded. Lin Chia opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but finally just sighed helplessly. Although he also felt that the past half-month had been somewhat absurd, this was, after all, training arranged by the Night Watchers commanders. As the leader of the Nightfall team, it didn't seem right for him to lead the criticism. As they were chatting, Li Kengqiang's figure unhurriedly emerged from the deep forest. "How are you little guys doing? Rested well?" Li Kengqiang pulled down his toed sunglasses slightly, his gaze sweeping over everyone, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. "We're rested." "Good, because today's training is going to be a bit strenuous." Hearing this, a glimmer of light appeared in everyone's eyes. Could it be that after half a month of fooling around, they would finally have a normal mind barrier training? Under everyone's expectant gaze, Li Kengqiang pulled out several swimsuits, stuffed them into Lin Chia and the others' arms, and then solemnly announced, "Today's training is called the All-Team Dog Paddle Swimming Slow Race. Everyone." The rules of the competition are as follows. Everyone puts on swimsuits and without using any forbidden domains, starts from the beach and competes using the dog paddle swimming style. Within the specified time, whoever swims the shortest distance wins. Li Kengqiang excitedly explained. How about it? Isn't this training also very interesting? Brother Gun, can we do something serious? Chow Yuan's mouth twitched violently, but after a moment he couldn't help but speak up. Serious? This is your serious business. Li Kengqiang raised an eyebrow and turned toward the coastline. Hurry up and follow me. Whoever arrives last will have to swim 2 more laps in the sea. With helpless sighs, everyone reluctantly walked to the island's beach, changed into swimsuits, and at Li Kengqiang's enthusiastic whistle, plunged into the water. Chia, why do you think the commanders are doing this? I feel something's not right, Chow Yuan said with a frown as he splashed water. It's definitely not right. Lin Chia looked back at Li Kengqiang on the shore and spoke honestly. Even if this ridiculous training is the product of Brother Gun being extremely bored, what about Commander Nie Jinshan, or even General Hua Tubing at the bottom of the island? They can't all be this bored, right? They know we're doing these ridiculous things every day, so why hasn't anyone stepped in to stop it? Yeah. Pang Pang, what do you think? Pang Pang. Everyone looked back to find that Bailey Pang Pang had disappeared, with only bubbles gurgling up from beneath the water. Lin Chia was startled and quickly dove into the water, pulling up the sinking Bailey Pang Pang. The latter hung on Lin Chia's shoulder, coughing violently. Damn it, swimming is what I'm worst at. Let's just symbolically swim a couple of laps and then go back. Okay, Bailey Pang Pang nodded, about to say something more when his gaze caught something in the distance on the sea surface. He paused slightly. Someone's coming? Someone? Who? Another enemy attack? Under everyone's vigilant gaze, Bailey Pang Pang extended his hand and pointed to the horizon. A figure wearing a Taoist robe was walking slowly toward them, treading on the waves. Don't panic, it's just a heavenly venerable, Bailey Pang Pang said calmly. Hearing Bai Lipeng's casual remark, everyone was stunned. Heavenly Lord? Lin Chia was the first to react, suddenly turning his head to look in the direction of that figure. Above the rolling waves, the Taoist with his hair tied up in a bun flickered and disappeared, reappearing instantly before Lin Chia and the others. At such close distance, Lin Chia clearly saw that familiar face. It was indeed the primordial Heavenly Lord whom he had met several times before. The primordial Heavenly Lord stood on the sea surface, looking at Lin Chia and the others dog paddling in the water. This great Xia Heavenly Lord who comprehended all secrets of past and present showed rare confusion and bewilderment in his eyes. What are you all doing? Lin Chia. In the awkward atmosphere, Lin Chia remained silent for a long time before finally squeezing out. We are training. Yes, we're training, everyone hurriedly agreed. The primordial Heavenly Lord's expression was somewhat strange. After pondering for a moment, he waved his hand, his wide sleeve directly enveloping Lin Chia and the others. I have matters to discuss with you. Let's put the training aside for now. With a wave of his sleeve, Lin Chia and the others felt a spinning sensation before their bodies left the water and instantly landed on the soft beach. Huh. How did you all? Li Qiangqiang, who had been waiting on the beach, was startled to see Lin Chia and the others appear out of nowhere. Before he could finish speaking, a Taoist appeared beside them. Li Qiangqiang's words came to an abrupt halt. He looked at the Taoist, quickly composing his expression and respectfully said, Heroic spirit Li Qiangqiang greets the primordial Heavenly Lord. No need for formalities. The primordial Heavenly Lord nodded slightly, then asked curiously, recalling how Lin Chia and the others looked earlier. By the way, what were they doing just now? You said it was training. Well. Li Qiangqiang coughed awkwardly a couple of times, momentarily at a loss for words. It was the mental barrier training Senior Li prepared for us, Bai Lipeng said quietly. Besides the group dog paddle swimming slowness competition, there's also grass skirt dancing, handstand racing, playing poker. As Bai Lipeng spoke with a hint of resentment, the primordial Heavenly Lord's expression grew strange. He glanced at the silent Li Qiangqiang but didn't pursue the matter. Lin Chia. The primordial Heavenly Lord turned to look at Lin Chia and took out a medicine box from his robe. This is the medicinal pill that Yang Jian and Sun Wukong obtained from the Virtue Heavenly Lord for you. I am here to deliver it to you. Lin Chia stood frozen in place. But, My ears are almost healed already. Lin Chia accepted the medicine box. In Asgard, Lin Chia's ears had been injured by the monster summoned by the Holy Grail. After returning to Great Xia, Yang Jian and Sun Wukong had gone back to the Celestial Court to seek medicine for Lin Chia, but after so much time, Lin Chia's hearing had almost completely recovered. The primordial heavenly lord shook his head. Regardless of what creature injured you, its origins are far from ordinary, and your injury is more than just a ruptured eardrum. Not just you. After Yang Jian and Sun Wukong returned to the Celestial Court, their wounds seemed healed, but deep in their souls, extremely strange ailments remained. Had I not happened to see through it, those two would likely still be unaware. You mean everyone attacked by that sound was unknowingly infected? Lin Chia's brows furrowed tightly as the image of that spiral mouth emerging from the clouds reappeared in his mind. In fact, Lin Chia had also found it strange. At the time, the sound had indeed shattered his eardrums, causing temporary hearing loss. But with his body that had consumed the peach of immortality and been cleansed by fate, such a minor injury should have healed quickly. But after they returned to Great Xia and took spiritual medicine, the injury still hadn't completely healed. If it were just a normal eardrum injury, this wouldn't have been possible. Correct. The primordial heavenly lord nodded. The ailments in Yang Jian and Sun Wukong have now been completely eliminated. If the ailment in your body is left untreated, it won't cause problems in the short term, but perhaps someday in the future, it could become a fatal threat. This medicinal pill was specially crafted by the Virtue Heavenly Lord for you. Besides completely driving out the ailment in your body, it will also benefit your physical condition. You should take it now. Seeing this, Lin Chia nodded and opened the medicine box. Misty spiritual energy flowed from the cracks of the box, and a milky white pill sat quietly in the center, releasing a rich medicinal fragrance that entered Lin Chia's nostrils. Lin Chia picked up the pill, curiosity in his eyes. This was his first encounter with a genuine Celestial Court medicinal pill. He wondered if it was like those immortal pills described in books. One bite and you could ascend to immortality, living as long as heaven and earth? This thought had barely formed in his mind before he dismissed it. Mythological legends were just legends after all. If the Celestial Court could casually produce pills of such caliber, Great Xia would need less than a month to utterly dominate the other divine nations. Celestial Court pills might indeed have miraculous properties, but they certainly weren't as exaggerated as in legends. After all, the spiritual treasure Heavenly Lord had spent thousands of years and untold effort to create just two pills: eternal life and immortality. Lin Chia swallowed the pill and immediately felt a warm current flowing throughout his body. He quickly sat cross-legged to sense the flow of this warmth. To the others watching, streams of faint light emerged from Lin Chia's body, rapidly spreading across his entire form. Nearby, Qingyu pushed up his glasses, full of curiosity at this sight. Bang! Suddenly, a crisp sound erupted from within Lin Chia's body. Lin Chia's eyes snapped open as he bent forward, retching violently. A moment later, a large pool of black viscous liquid surged from his throat. Seeing this, Chao Yuan and the others instinctively stepped back, their brows tightly furrowed. What the hell is that thing? The liquid splashed onto the beach but didn't spread like water. Instead, it rapidly gathered together, forming a writhing shadow that rushed toward the nearby sea. The primordial Heavenly Lord seemed to have anticipated this. He flicked his finger in the air and a transparent flame enveloped the liquid, burning it fiercely. Strange, shrill screams emanated from the flames as the liquid twisted frantically, struggling in pain like a living creature. But as the fire grew stronger, it finally turned into wisps of smoke and disappeared. As the liquid left his body, Lin Chia's face visibly flushed red, then returned to a healthy paleness as the medicine's power balanced his system. His heavy breathing stabilized, and in the remaining medicinal power, his mental strength rapidly increased. After some time, Lin Chia slowly opened his eyes, his gaze exceptionally bright. Lin Chia could clearly feel that under the stimulation of the medicine, his spiritual power had increased significantly. If previously he could only vaguely sense the threshold of the ceiling, now he felt he had arrived right before that threshold, and had even stepped halfway across it. Although both were at the peak of the Klein realm for an ordinary Klein practitioner, taking such a step would require at least several years or even decades of accumulation. Lin Chia looked around and found that the primordial heavenly lord as well as Bailey Pang Pang and others were all frowning at a scorched patch on the beach. What was that thing just now? Lin Chia recalled the mysterious liquid he had spit out earlier. Since he had been concentrating on digesting the medicine's power at the time, he hadn't had the leisure to look, and even now he didn't know what he had actually expelled. Unknown, the primordial heavenly lord shook his head slightly. However, judging from its aura, it might be related to those things on the moon. You mean, the Cthulhu mythos? Lin Chia's brows furrowed tightly. Judging from the monster's appearance, it indeed didn't look like the mythological beings that should exist in this world. But why would using the Holy Grail, to wish for the return of souls, summon Cthulhu-type deities? This humble Taoist has delivered the pill, you may all disperse now, the primordial heavenly lord said calmly, withdrawing his gaze. He gently waved his hand and his form gradually faded like thin mist, disappearing without a trace. Seeing the primordial heavenly lord leave, Li Qiangqiang lightly coughed twice and tactically adjusted his toad-shaped sunglasses. Well, since everyone's finished their business, shall we continue the competition? Gunbro, the heavenly lord said we should all disperse. Bailey Pang Pang blinked, emphasizing the last few words. Li Qiangqiang. Seeing that no one was really interested, Li Qiangqiang shrugged helplessly and said, "Fine then, today's training ends here." Dismissed. The swimsuit-clad group exchanged glances, then turned and left without any lingering attachment. 7. How did the Heavenly Palace pill taste? Chow Yuan asked curiously as they walked. Lin Chia thought for a moment, not much different from a gumball. What a pity. If there were any residual medicine dregs, I might have been able to analyze the pill's composition. And Qingyu sighed with some regret, looking at Lin Chia with eager eyes. Lin Chia silently turned his head away, then paused slightly. Where's Pang Pang? I think he got scared in the sea and went to the bathroom. Oh. On the island. Meanwhile, Bailey Pang Pang changed into his clothes, yawning as he slowly sat down on a huge rock facing the sea. You came all this way, it can't be just to deliver medicine to 7, right? He said to the empty air in front of him. A breeze passed by, and a figure wearing Taoist robes materialized from the void beside him. Besides delivering medicine, I also came to see you. The primordial heavenly lord smiled slightly. Your swimming is quite good. Bailey Pong Pong's mouth twitched. After all, I'm a reincarnated body. As a mortal, having some natural deficiencies isn't strange, is it? Are you comfortable on this island? No, I'm not. Bailey Pang Pang turned his head, looking at the smiling Taoist beside him with complex eyes, and slowly asked, "Keeping us on this island was your idea, wasn't it?" Yes. The primordial heavenly lord nodded frankly. Why? I should have told you about that matter. You mean that seed of disaster between us? Bailey Pang Pang recalled his previous conversation with the primordial heavenly lord in the heavenly palace, his brows furrowing deeper. But didn't you say that the future timeline had already changed and that you wouldn't directly move against him, but would test his character instead? Do you think he might betray Great Xia? This isn't about character. The primordial heavenly lord paused. His very existence defies common sense. Not directly erasing him is already the greatest concession from the heavenly palace. Bailey Pang Pang froze in place. So, you want to keep us all under house arrest here to control his actions? It's the best method. The primordial heavenly lord spoke calmly. The Sun City, high plane of heaven, and Asgard have fallen one after another. This divine war won't last much longer. This island has heroic spirits guarding it, and the dispersed national fortune purifies the body. Before everything settles, this place is the most suitable dwelling for you all. Bailey Pang Pang opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to refute something, but couldn't deny this fact. Indeed, without killing that person, confining them all to this island was the optimal choice. It could both prevent future disastrous variables and enhance their strength. It's useless. 7 and the others are very smart. They've already started to realize this training isn't so simple. Bailey Pang Pang shook his head. Even if they realize it, what can they do? Bailey Pang Pang scratched his head and sighed deeply. On this island, with General Hua Tsubing and generations of night watchman commanders guarding it, even if they realized they were under house arrest, what could they do? Could they possibly break out from under the noses of these commanders? Must it go this far? Bailey Pang Pang asked gravely. Perhaps the worst scenario you envision will never happen. Perhaps. The primordial heavenly lord looked into his eyes. But current Great Xia can't afford to gamble. Especially when we only have 2 heavenly lords. Bailey Pang Pang, still wanting to try to persuade him, saw the primordial heavenly lord's extremely serious gaze and swallowed the words that had reached his lips. The primordial heavenly lord withdrew his gaze and was about to say something more when his eyes suddenly focused, turning to look into the distance. His brows furrowed slightly. Sensing the change in the primordial heavenly lord's aura, Bailey Pang Pang asked puzzledly, "What's happened?" "They're coming earlier than I expected." The primordial heavenly lord slowly stood up, gave Bailey Pang Pang one last look and turned to walk into the void behind him. "Stay here with them peacefully. No matter what happens outside, don't leave, unless you're ready to return." The primordial heavenly lord's form visibly faded, disappearing without a trace in the space of a breath, leaving only a faint whirlwind that lifted the corner of Bailey Pang Pang's clothes. Bailey Pang Pang sat alone on the huge rock, glanced at the distant sky, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He looked down at his palm and murmured, "Return, huh? Great Wall border." The gray mist rolled violently outside the Wall of Miracles. Atop the layered snow-white mountain peaks stood a steel-forged silver-white city, towering majestically. This was one of the several crucial Class A war fortresses on the southwestern side of Great Xia, and also the highest-altitude war pass in Great Xia, Chinnan Pass. The howling cold wind swept across the towering outer walls of Chinnan Pass, producing a deep moaning sound. This silver city standing among the mountains had been guarding the southwest of Great Xia in solitude for several years. Looking down from above, one could see countless figures busily moving about within. Wung! The piercing alarm broke the silence between the mountains. Everyone inside the pass froze momentarily, then rushed quickly to their respective posts. Beep, highest level alert? Which watchtower issued it? Where are the enemies? In which direction? The alert wasn't issued by a watchtower, it came directly from Chinnan Pass Command Center. Command Center? What exactly happened? This is Night Watchman Reserve Team 2, we don't see any enemy presence, please respond Command Center. This is Night Watchman Reserve Team 1, we also don't see. One heavy voice after another came through the intercom. Within half a minute, all personnel at Chinnan Pass had reached their emergency positions, but no one had spotted any sign of enemy attack. Moments later, Guanzai's voice sounded from the intercom. This highest alert was directly ordered by Night Watchman Headquarters and Great Xia Celestial Court. Everyone remain vigilant. A highest level alert directly issued by Night Watchman Headquarters and the Celestial Court. Hearing this, everyone at Chinnan Pass felt their hearts sink. In the past, at all major war passes, even when under attack, the watchtowers would first discover the enemy, then assess the danger level to determine the alert level. But this time, the highest level alert came directly from headquarters and the Celestial Court. This meant that a great disaster, not yet perceived by those at Chinnan Pass but known to Great Xia's leadership, was about to arrive. In the howling cold wind, over 1,000 people guarded every corner of Chinnan Pass, their hearts in their throats, countless eyes fixed on the churning wall of mist in the distance. Crack! A bolt of lightning suddenly flashed from the clouds inside the Wall of Miracles, and the thunderous sound like heaven collapsing made the mountains below shake violently. Then streams of dark golden light seeped out from nothingness, weaving together in the clouds. Vaguely one could see countless complex, mysterious symbols surging forth. What is that thing? Such terrifying pressure. Which divine realm's power is this? Look, those lights are forming what looks like a door. It's a door. Under the witness of countless guardians at Chinnan Pass, a massive gateway was gradually taking shape at the mountain cloud summit. This door stood above the clouds, its size impossible to measure with the naked eye, but it was certain that if this door fell face down, it could cover this entire towering mountain range. Gray mist drifted behind the gateway, and deep within that mist, an ancient and mysterious temple floated silently in the air. Temple of the Gods. In the command center of Chinnan Pass, Yang Jian, wearing silver armor, stared at the temple shadow barely visible behind the gateway and spoke each word deliberately. So that's the Indian divine realm, Temple of the Gods? Standing beside him, Guanzai frowned deeply. Those Indian gods have moved their home directly into Great Xia territory? No, except for Great Xia's celestial court, no other divine realm has the ability to move through space. Yang Jian shook his head, pointing at the dark golden gateway standing in the clouds, and slowly explained, "They are using the space gate to connect the space in front of the Temple of the Gods with Great Xia's territory, forming a one-way passage. Beings on the space gate side can directly move to this side, but those on this side cannot reach the other end of the space gate. In a sense, they have directly connected the Temple of the Gods with Great Xia." Space gate. Is that the supreme divine artifact of Indian mythology? Correct. Starting with their supreme artifact directly moving the Temple of the Gods to Great Xia. These guys are serious? Guanzai's face was extremely grim. What the Temple of the Gods was doing now was similar to when Great Xia's deities moved the celestial court above Egypt's Sun City. This act of directly moving one's divine realm into another's territory was the greatest provocation possible, and also meant they were prepared to initiate a fight to the death. Yang Jian's brows furrowed, showing confusion. This doesn't make sense. Those fellows at the Temple of the Gods are ascetic deities, not full of ambition and aggression like Asgard or Olympus. They even helped when the Tao Moral Heavenly Venerable was hunting down Odin. How did they suddenly change direction, abandoning their steady reclusive style to directly wage war against Great Xia? Now is not the time to seek such deep reasons. Guanzai looked up at the sky. Through the space gate in the clouds, the doors of the Temple of the Gods slowly opened, and figures cut through the mist, rapidly rushing toward the side of the gate. His expression was extremely grim. They've moved their entire divine realm to Chinen Pass, but all of Great Xia's combat forces are scattered among 12 war fortresses along the border. If they're determined to break through here, we simply cannot hold them off. Among the world's divine realms, only Great Xia's celestial court, Egypt's Sun City, India's Temple of the Gods, Norse Asgard, Greek Olympus, and Japan's High Plane of Heaven were the 6 largest, though even among these 6 there were slight differences in strength. If ranking these 6 divine realms purely by combat power, Egypt's Sun City and Japan's High Plane of Heaven would be in the 3rd tier. The former because the entire divine realm had only one supreme deity, the sun god Ra. The latter, despite having 2 supremes in Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, had too few deities at the major god level. Norse Asgard and Greek Olympus belonged to the 2nd tier. The former, though having only one supreme, boasted Odin at his peak as arguably the strongest god on earth. Even Great Xia's Tao Moral Heavenly Venerable and India's Vishnu together couldn't kill him, demonstrating his formidable power. As for the latter, judging by both the number of supremes and major gods, it should have been in the 1st tier, but unfortunately Olympus was constantly embroiled in internal strife. Zeus, Nyx, and Kronos, currently still on the moon, were all at odds with each other, causing the entire divine realm's combat power to drop to the 2nd tier. As for the 1st tier, it consisted only of the transcendent Great Xia Celestial Court and the mysterious ancient Indian Temple of the Gods. The Great Summer Heavenly Court lost a spiritual treasure venerable thousands of years ago, while the Indian Temple of Gods similarly lost a Shiva deity countless ages ago. 2 equally supreme powers with equally numerous and formidable main deities, and equally ancient foundations and accumulations. In a one-on-one confrontation between divine realms, only the Heavenly Court and the Temple of Gods could keep each other in check. But reality is not merely theoretical. Although the comprehensive strength of the Heavenly Court and the Temple of Gods is similar, the Heavenly Court has one fatal weakness, and that is Great Summer. Great Summer's vast territorial area and astonishing population are the Heavenly Court's greatest vulnerability. To protect all of Great Summer, they must disperse all their fighting forces to different locations. As a result, their strength is significantly weakened in every direction. This is why, to this day, the strategy of Great Summer's gods has always been to attack proactively rather than defend passively. With proactive attacks, they advance with unstoppable momentum. With passive defense, once they are bogged down, it becomes a dead end. In contrast, the Temple of Gods does not have this concern. Their relatively small population is hidden within the human circle, and they dare to connect the Temple of Gods directly to Great Summer's territory precisely because all their fighting forces are concentrated together. If the Heavenly Court and the Temple of Gods were compared to 2 similarly sized hammers, Then the heavenly court, in order to protect Great Summer, has already melted and reforged its hammer into an iron ring. Although strong enough in all aspects, if the other hammer forcefully strikes one point of the iron ring, the ring will inevitably crack open. From the moment the sky gate appeared in the clouds, Great Summer fell into an absolute disadvantage. When the Temple of Gods first began constructing the sky gate, the Great Summer God already sensed it. Now forces from the other war fortresses are rapidly converging here. However, this still takes time. Yang Jian took a deep breath. Guan stared at the dense divine shadows gradually approaching the sky gate from the other side of the sky, a bitter smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. But we're almost out of time. Even without time we must buy time. Yang Jian's hand swept through the air, and the three-pointed double-edged blade automatically fell into his palm. His other hand gently patted the head of the growling, howling celestial dog beside him, and they transformed into two streaks of lightning, instantly disappearing from their spot. In the sky, before the dark golden sky gate, the sea of clouds churned. A silver light shot up from the highest peak of the mountain range's city. In front of that gate so tall it seemed to press down on the sky dome, a figure clad in silver armor and wielding a three-pointed double-edged blade stepped out into the air. At the same time, one divine shadow after another passed through the rolling mist, crossing the sky gate, dotting the dome higher than the clouds like stars across the sky. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. The terrifying divine might of main deity-level beings descended one after another, with countless lesser deities swarming out. Some had 3 heads and 6 arms, some were wrapped in Buddhist light, some exuded murderous energy reaching the skies. They stood at the highest point in the world looking down upon the human realm. In those pairs of seemingly emotionless divine eyes, under that gate capable of crushing the sky dome, those mountains, that city, those people in the clouds, all seemed as insignificant as ants. Swoosh! The three-pointed double-edged blade swept across, creating a vacuum arc hundreds of miles wide in the sea of clouds. The dim sunlight fell upon the silver armor, emanating a faint golden glow. That solitary and tiny silver-armored figure calmly raised his head, his eyes reflecting the images of the gods. Clear origin, wondrous Tao, true Lord is here. Who dares to bully my Great Summer without gods? The voice, steady as a mountain, echoed across the sky. The Fire Virtue Star Lord, Blessing Heavenly Official Martial Melody Star Lord, and several other heavenly court lesser deities rose from Chin'an Pass, standing solemnly behind Yang Jian. Among the countless Indian gods, a divine shadow shrouded in sunlight spoke softly. Was it you who killed Indra? Years ago, among the gods who invaded Great Summer with Poseidon and Loki, there was the thunder god Indra from the Temple of Gods, who was ultimately slain by Yang Jian, who had returned from reincarnation. It was me, said Yang Jian. Then you shall die. As the words fell, the numerous divine shadows adorning the sky dome descended like meteors. The magnificent divine might, like heavenly punishment, fell from the sky. Facing such a number of Indian gods, the mere 6 or 7 deities of Great Summer were like eggs striking stone. Even so, Yang Jian's face showed not the slightest fear. The vertical eye on his forehead opened, and his soaring fighting spirit surged to the heavens. Those who violate my Great Summer shall be killed. Yang Jian roared, his divine power pouring out violently. A massive divine manifestation rose from the mountains, wielding the three-pointed double-edged blade, slashing toward the countless Indian gods. Beside him, the howling celestial dog barked fiercely, the sound growing with the wind, following closely behind. Howling winds swept past Yang Jian's ears as 2 brilliant divine power attacks suddenly struck the surface of his manifestation. His form faltered, but his blade did not slow by half a measure. The manifestation endured the combined attack of 2 main deities, forcefully slicing a lesser deity who charged at the front in half. The hot divine blood poured onto the silver armor, seemingly awakening the killing intent in Yang Jian's heart. He roared, and his speed increased by another large margin. This strike, though it only killed 1 lesser deity, revealed his bloodthirstiness and dominance with every move, invisibly intimidating the Indian gods while boosting the morale of Great Summer's side. As several Great Summer gods charged into battle, pale green characters began flowing in the air. At the peak of Chin'an Pass, Guan, wearing a baseball cap and checkered shirt, rapidly typed into the void. Countless codes revolved around him, emitting mysterious light. With the appearance of these codes, the many descending Indian gods visibly slowed down. This was not because their speed had been reduced, but because the distance between them and the ground was being rapidly extended. In this brief delay, the positions of the Indian gods became layered, and this stratification in speed quickly reduced the number of deities directly charging at Yang Jian and his companions by half. The pressure on Yang Jian suddenly lightened. A beam of light burst from the vertical eye on his manifestation's forehead, enveloping several Indian gods at the front. The three-pointed double-edged blade emitted a piercing hum in the air, instantly beheading another lesser deity. However, these deities who had cultivated for countless ages in the Temple of Gods were not so easily dealt with. After the brief delay, the gods attacked again. Dense divine light bombarded the surface of Yang Jian's divine manifestation, causing hideous cracks to spread rapidly. The figure shrouded in sunlight instantly penetrated the void, like a golden streak of light passing by Yang Jian's side, directly piercing through the chest of the martial melody Star Lord. With just this handful of people, do you think you can stop us? Yang Jian's combat power was already top tier among the main gods, but no matter how strong he was, he couldn't possibly defeat such a terrifying number of deities. The number of main gods in the Celestial Temple was no fewer than those in Great Xia, and the same applied to their top fighters. As several main gods launched a joint attack, Yang Jian's heaven and earth transformation was shattered to pieces in just moments. Under the immense pressure, Yang Jian's peripheral vision caught sight of several lesser gods behind him falling one after another. His eyes immediately turned bloodshot. "Don't let one person hold us back," said the divine shadow shrouded in sunlight calmly. "Destroy that city." Streams of divine light swept past Yang Jian, like a meteor shower crashing toward Chinen Pass. Lines of code emerged from nothingness, weaving together into a large net, attempting to envelop the entire fortress. But under the combined assault of the gods, it shattered with a thunderous boom in just seconds. Inside Chinen Pass, the fortress commander suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his face turning deathly pale. "Activate the war module," he commanded coldly, his eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching gods. Great Xia's 12 war fortresses were each guarded by one main god, 3 to 5 lesser gods, and a human at the pinnacle of power. Where human talent was insufficient, special squads or slightly weaker Nightwatcher teams were stationed instead. Due to its strategic location, Chinen Pass was defended by the most elite main gods, lesser gods and human fighters. Even so, facing the full frontal assault of the entire Celestial Temple, this defensive line remained as fragile as paper. At this point, Chinen Pass had no choice but to fight to the death. With a deafening roar, missile silos rose from between the outer and inner walls of Chinen Pass. Countless weapons carrying the crystallization of modern technology soared into the sky, trailing flames, forming dense barrages rushing toward the gods. Blinding explosions bloomed in the sky, white-hot flames intertwining to form a burning sun that engulfed the incoming divine shadows. Within this barrage, the gods' advance was clearly hindered, especially the lesser gods. Countless divine lights surged around them, connecting to form walls that collectively resisted the frenzied bombardment. In Asgard, the 2 nuclear bombs Mu had wished for had forced even Hela, the goddess of the underworld, to temporarily retreat. Chinen Pass's arsenal of thermal weapons also included several nuclear warheads, and their combined explosive power was something that even main god-level beings wouldn't dare to face head-on. "This kind of attack won't last long," a deep voice transmitted from among the divine shadows in the sky. "Let the beast horde charge first." As the voice fell, thunderous roars of ferocious beasts erupted like rolling thunder, pouring out from the sky gate in the clouds. Numerous robust divine beasts with surging godly power crashed toward the blazing fire curtain like a tidal wave. Makara was a divine beast race from Indian mythology. Besides them, the Celestial Temple also kept many other divine beasts, including 2-headed birds, 4-trunked elephants, and bizarre divine beasts that looked like combinations of lions, elephants, and horses. Their massive bodies broke through the fire curtain, transforming into fireballs streaking across the sky, fiercely charging toward the thick silver-white walls. Seeing this, the fortress commander took a deep breath and spoke decisively. "Everyone engage." This voice reached the ears of every fighter in Chinen Pass. Whether they were night watchers, Great Xia military personnel or logistics staff with only a few days of training, they all let out a low roar and charged toward the oncoming divine beasts along the outer walls and main gate. Clang! The sound of straight blades being drawn rang out across Chengnan Pass. Figures wearing dark red cloaks gathered together, automatically forming the first echelon, shooting across the sky like a red arrow. These night watchers were team members summoned from various parts of Great Xia. Their cultivation levels were generally not high, ranging between the pool and measureless realms, with only one or two at the Klein level. Against these divine beasts that could shatter mountain peaks with a single step, they were like eggs striking against rocks. The terrifying divine pressure weighed on their shoulders, and though their faces were pale with tension, their eyes shone with unprecedented light. After being a night watcher in Shanqing City for so many years, I never thought I'd get a chance to slash at divine beasts, laughed a burly Sea Realm night watcher facing the howling beast horde. What a pity, old Huang. That hot pot you promised to treat us to, I'm afraid we won't get to enjoy it. No worries. Before coming here, I already told that little guy who stayed behind in our team that if I die in battle he should burn more paper hot pots for us down there. We brothers can still feast. Haha, when we get down there, even the king of hell will be jealous. The fierce wind stirred up by the charging divine beasts made the night watchers' cloaks flutter wildly. After laughing and joking for a moment, the smiles gradually faded from their lips. They reached into their robes, took out emblems and held them in their palms. After exchanging glances and sharing knowing smiles, they solemnly and reverently stabbed the ghost god inducer into their palms. Boom! As the ghost god inducer took effect, their cultivation levels began to rise rapidly. The two-headed bird charging at the front let out a simultaneous screech. The terrifying sound waves instantly turned night watchers below the sea realm into a mist of blood. Half of the night watchers perished, while the remaining half, with blood flowing from their 7 orifices, roared as they swung their straight blades at the two-headed bird's neck. Slash! Several streaks of white light flashed across the sky, and a silver pillar like Thor's hammer crashed heavily into the front of the beast formation. The snow-white mountainside was smashed into countless fragments. This giant pillar stood firmly in the center of the beast horde, surrounded by thick lightning. At the top of the pillar stood a figure wearing a black cloak. Boom, boom, boom. Several consecutive thunderous explosions followed as 6 more silver pillars crashed into the ground. Each pillar had a black-cloaked figure standing on top. The 7 lightning pillars stood in a row, like a towering lightning wall blocking the roaring beast horde. 7 auras at the peak of the Klein realm suddenly descended. The night watchers locked in life and death struggles with the beast horde saw these 7 figures, and their eyes lit up. It's the medium team. They've come from Snow-Cold Pass. The howling cold wind swept past the wide brim of their hats, revealing gray, deathly faces calmly gazing at the beast horde from atop the pillars. The only one with color in his face was the medium team leader standing in the center, Bu Li. Bu Li looked at these dozens of divine beast-level monsters with some resignation and slowly closed his eyes. He flipped his palm and an emblem fell into it. He gently inserted the silver needle into his fingertip, and his cultivation level, already hovering at the threshold of human limits, began to climb at an astonishing rate. His eyes opened slightly and a fierce fighting spirit erupted from within. Medium, fight to the death. In the wake of spiritual medium, several streaks of light cut across the sky, rushing toward this place. Yang Jian, a young man wearing a red hoodie riding on windfire wheels, fixed his gaze on the blood-colored figure in the clouds above, who was being frantically surrounded and attacked by the gods of the heavenly temple. His pupils suddenly contracted. He let out a low growl and a golden divine ring shot out from his wrist. The Qianquan ring soared into the clouds, forcibly dispersing the intertwined divine lights. The red figure, wielding a fire-tipped spear, howled as he charged toward the Indian gods who were besieging Yang Jian. Damn monkey! If you're any slower, he'll be dead. Neza shouted at the void behind him. The moment his words fell hundreds of kilometers away from Chengnan Pass, a brilliant golden light rapidly extended from the edge of the clouds. Moments later, the outline of an absurdly large golden cudgel broke through the mist with tremendous force, smashing straight toward the Indian gods near the void gate. Unlike Neza, who was stationed at the neighboring Prajna Pass, Sun Wukong had flown all the way from the War Pass on the northwestern side of Great Xia at full speed on his cloud somersault. With the almost abnormal speed of his cloud, he arrived almost simultaneously with Neza, who was closest in distance. Even though his figure was still hundreds of kilometers away, this strike of his cudgel had already reached the faces of the Indian gods. The golden cudgel was simply too large, and the divine might swirling around it forcibly drove back several major Indian gods. As their forms instinctively retreated to both sides, in this brief interval, a red figure riding fire wheels streaked across the sky. The mixed heaven's silk shot out, instantly binding a blood-soaked figure and flying away. Yang Jian. Are you all right? Yang Jian. Neza shouted anxiously, holding the figure in his arms. Under the siege of the Indian gods, Yang Jian's silver armor had already shattered to pieces, his body riddled with wounds, completely transformed into a figure of blood. Even his three-pointed double-edged blade had broken in half. On his chest, little Black Lai, who had reverted to his original form, was covered in wounds, trying to use his own body to plug Yang Jian's continuously bleeding wounds, wheezing like a broken bellows. Neza checked Yang Jian's breath, which had grown extremely faint. Monkey. He's almost gone. Neza shouted, turning his head. Sun Wukong arrived quickly on his cloud somersault, his golden eyes scanning Yang Jian's body, his face extremely grim. Yang Jian's injuries were indeed too severe, but in this situation, there was no one who could heal him, unless they abandoned Chinen Pass and immediately took him back to the heavenly palace on the cloud somersault. But that was simply unrealistic. Yang Jian. If you're still the mighty Erlang god, then hang in there. Sun Wukong roared like thunder in the ear of the barely conscious Yang Jian. Great Xia hasn't won yet, this war has just begun. Are you going to desert now? How devastated would Lin Chia be if he knew you died in battle? That kid now has only you as family. As Sun Wukong's words fell, Yang Jian's increasingly unfocused eyes slightly contracted, and his breath, which had nearly ceased, barely maintained its last thread. Go find a place to settle him first. Sun Wukong said to Neza, turning his head. In those brilliant golden eyes rose an unprecedented fury. I'm going to meet these beasts. Before Neza could say more, Sun Wukong, gripping his golden cudgel, instantly vanished from the spot. The next moment, a violent giant ape manifestation erupted before the Indian gods in the sky above. Neza gritted his teeth and carried the dying Yang Jian toward Chinen Pass. Streaks of light continuously flew in from the horizon, rapidly converging on the front line. Guangqing Zi, Taizhenren, Fengdu Emperor. The gods of Great Xia had set out toward this place as soon as the Void Gate began to be constructed. But due to the varying distances between the war passes, their arrival times also differed. These were already the Great Xia gods closest to Chinen Pass, while those further away were still en route. With just this number of Great Xia gods, defeating the heavenly temple was impossible. They could only try to buy time. Just as Neza was anxiously looking for a place to settle Yang Jian, a carriage came weaving through the mountain peaks. A crisp bell sound rang out, quickly attracting Neza's attention. It's him. Neza's eyes lit up. Hand him over to me. Master Chen opened the carriage door and spoke solemnly. Although I'm not skilled in combat, I can keep him safe. Good. Without any hesitation, Neza directly passed Yang Jian into Master Chen's carriage, then turned and rushed toward the battlefield. Watching Neza's figure gradually disappear, Master Chen sighed. The carriage door closed automatically, and the carriage passed through the mountains like a ghost, vanishing without a trace. Meanwhile, in front of Chinen Pass, roaring divine beasts frantically crashed against the silver pillars. Fire and frost covered the ground like a pair of violent giant hands trying to tear apart the lightning wall formed by the intertwining silver pillars. 7 figures draped in black cloaks fluttered like butterflies among the beast horde. A ferocious giant claw tore through space, instantly slicing off most of one person's body, yet not a drop of blood splattered. As if completely unaware of pain, he thrust a flaming long sword into the back of the beast's claw. Bo Li's realm was already approaching the human ceiling, and after activating the ghost god summoning, his own strength didn't increase much. But strangely, the realms of the other 6 members were rising at an astonishing rate. Bo Li's realm hadn't grown much, but the combat power of the entire spiritual medium squad had doubled. Traces of blood seeped from Bo Li's pale lips. His deep eyes precisely sought gaps in the surrounding attacks. The 7-person squad dispersed and regrouped with amazing tacit understanding, like an absolutely precise machine, navigating dangerously through the beast horde. Their presence instantly attracted the attention of most of the divine beasts. From the beginning, Bo Li had no intention of directly confronting the beast horde. Even with Ghost God summoning activated, facing 3 to 4 divine beasts simultaneously was already spiritual medium's limit, but now they faced more than 10 times that number. All he could do was continuously draw the attention of these divine beasts, then use the 7 lightning pillar artifacts to trap the remaining beasts, buying time for other great Xia gods and human sealing experts to arrive. Facts proved his decision was correct. These divine beasts, capable of leveling the entire Qinan Pass, were forcibly held in place by them. And because they attracted most of the firepower, the casualties among the ordinary night watchers and great Xia military forces who arrived later were significantly reduced. Cough cough cough. As time passed, Bo Li's face grew increasingly pale, and the speed of the other 6 black-cloaked figures gradually slowed. Boom. A ferocious tail smashed into the ground, the shockwave sending their forms flying. A divine beast as tall as a mountain turned its body and let out a thunderous roar at these few ants. A massive beast claw came crashing down, but at that moment, a green light descended from the sky, forcibly severing the claw in midair. Commander Zhua. Seeing the arrival, Bo Li's lips curled into a bitter smile. Bu Li. Left Qing, wearing a dark red cloak, held a straight knife that touched the ground as he looked at the mutilated bodies of the 7 people before him, his expression incredibly complex. Well, we have worked hard. It's our duty. Bu Li shook his head. Are the reinforcements coming? The divine capital of Great Xia is on its way, for human apex fighters have already arrived and the Phoenix team's helicopter will be here soon. Bu Li let out a slight sigh of relief, then seemed to remember something. What about Night Curtain? How long until they arrive? Left Qing's body trembled slightly. He opened his mouth and slowly said, They probably won't make it. Special mission? Bu Li nodded, about to say something more when his entire body was seized by violent coughing again. Fresh red blood splattered on the ground, and his appearance visibly deteriorated. You injected Ghost God Inducer, while simultaneously controlling 6 bodies. The mental strain is too great, Left Qing said with a frown as he supported Bu Li's body. Bu Li wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. It's fine. Before I die I should be able to kill a few more divine beasts. Commander Left, don't forget what you promised me. Within 48 hours after my death, you must send all 7 of us to the fasting temple. Bu Li's gaze slowly swept across the 6 figures wearing black cloaks around him. As if remembering something, the corner of his mouth curved slightly upward. With him around, medium will not perish. Left Qing's expression was incredibly complex. Don't worry, I remember. Bu Li took a deep breath, pulled his black cloak's hood back up, and his somewhat hunched figure gradually straightened. In the howling gale, those 7 figures stood beneath the swaying thunder god pillars, dense electric arcs surging around their bodies, their clothes fluttering. Kill. Bu Li's voice mixed with the wind as the 7 figures transformed into 7 streaks of lightning, instantly charging toward the largest divine beast in the herd. It was a giant elephant with 4 trunks, each leg as thick as a mountain peak. It stood among the mountains, all 4 trunks simultaneously spewing raging flames, heating the 7 thunder god pillars that stood before Qinan Pass until they were scorching hot. As the medium team approached, it immediately abandoned its attack on the thunder god pillars and instead slammed its trunks toward the 7 black figures. As they quickly dispersed, the residual heat waves from its trunks directly set several mountain peaks ablaze like torches. The members of the medium team nimbly scattered around the elephant, deploying distinctly different forbidden domains, cutting ghastly bloody wounds across that enormous body. As the medium team completely abandoned defense for offense, the surrounding divine beasts rapidly converged on their position. Just then, a figure wearing a gray cloak fell from the sky into the beast herd. Silver-white hair floated in the air as time rapidly slowed down. Within several kilometers, The divine beast's movements seemed like a movie played at several times slower speed. Amid flying rocks and sand, they lunged toward the medium team members in the center. Wang Mian's aged eyes flashed with a cold gleam. His gray cloak swept through the air as his arm drew his sword, and Yuan, at his waist, carved a snow-white slash, instantly cutting in half the divine beast closest to the medium team. Even Wang Mian couldn't completely stop time when facing so many divine beasts. Slowing the flow to this extent was already his limit. As if sensing Wang Mian's intervention, among the 7 figures battling the 4-trunked elephant, Bu Li in his black cloak slightly turned his head to look at the gray-cloaked old man. Amid the roaring beast herd, their gazes briefly met. Under the wide hood, Bu Li smiled helplessly. There was no verbal exchange between them, but this less than a second eye contact allowed them to understand each other's thoughts. Looking at Bu Li's increasingly pale face, Wang Mian's eyes involuntarily filled with bitterness and sorrow. Left Qing's figure drew a blue streak through the beast herd, encircling several divine beasts. Master Qin drove his ghost carriage through Qin'an Pass's outer wall, also rushing toward this location. But as the 7 Thunder God pillars gradually cracked, the rampaging divine beasts were about to break through the blockade and charge toward Qin'an Pass. At that moment, Guanzai, standing on Qin'an Pass's outer wall, looked up at the sky and anxiously muttered, "When will that kid arrive?" Whoosh! A fighter jet roared past above Qin'an Pass. Guanzai's gaze fell upon the aircraft, his eyes gradually brightening. From behind the jet's tail, a white-clad figure leaped down. Long white hair danced wildly in the wind, and those cross-star-like eyes swept over the chaotic battlefield below, finally locking onto Guanzai on the outer wall. Guanzai lifted the brim of his baseball cap, exchanged a glance with Yuletang Bai, who was diving down like a meteor, and nodded slightly. Dense green code surged out from around Guanzai, weaving into towering red brick walls before Qin'an Pass, rapidly extending toward the onrushing beast herd. As the white-haired figure in white clothes crashed onto the ground, these red brick walls visibly solidified. Panels floated out from above Yuletang Bai's head, and the red brick walls covering the ground quickly twisted and intersected, dividing the roaring beast herd into separate sections. Red brick labyrinth. Yuletang Bai's hand lightly rested on the hilt of Divine Calamity, at his waist, his eyes scanning this constantly changing maze. Game start. Boom. The 7 Thunder God pillars exploded with a crash. Countless divine beasts surged out from behind the lightning wall, but what appeared before them now was no longer that massive silver-white city, but endless red brick walls. The red brick labyrinth, created by the combined efforts of Guanzai and Yuletang Bai in Asgard, which could simultaneously trap many gods, was once again turning the tide of battle at Qin'an Pass, buying at least another 10 minutes for the great Xia side. Seeing Yuletang Bai arrive in time to build the red brick labyrinth, Left Qing's anxious heart finally relaxed somewhat. Just then an unexpected change occurred. Behind the void gate standing in the clouds, the mist suddenly churned violently, and a Buddha-like face, seemingly both smiling and angry, appeared and disappeared. A terrifying divine pressure with extreme oppressiveness penetrated the void gate, instantly pressing down on the hearts of all great Xia gods and humans before Qin'an Pass. The ordinary people inside Qin'an Pass, upon seeing this vague Buddha face, felt their hearts tremble as rumbling chanting sounds encircled their ears, almost bursting their minds. One of India's supreme gods, Vishnu,